Brothers and sisters, welcome back to the Behavior Revolution Scriptures. And I've been having an amazing time going through the text and seeking to make these scriptures as easy as possible for the younger generations, older generations, people of the 21st century, just to understand, so that we don't have to labor and study and do 20 years worth of understanding just to work out, oh, I can have deliverance. I can have Yahusha for myself. I can follow him and obey him and have his ruach inside me. If I repent, if I get immersed in his amazing name. There's no other name that gives deliverance. Christopher just sent me a picture just now about the picture. Where is it? I'll put it up now. There it is. It's up the top. This here. He shared this just a few minutes ago. Yahusha means Yahuwah saves. Yahusha is my deliverance. The Shah. And I spoke about this in the last episode when we were dealing with Abram getting his name changed to Abraham. When we have a renewal, when there's a renewal of the covenant, when we come out of the waters of immersion and we become a new creature, we are washed clean and Yahusha comes and lives inside us. So we're not, by not using the word Yahuwah in the older sections of the scriptures, we're not casting down the name of Yahuwah because I'm using it in speech. But in the narrative, we're using the word, the name Yahusha, because Yahusha is Yahuwah, is Yahuwah, is Yahusha. It's the same thing. When you use the name Yahusha, you are using the name Yahuwah, because as you can see in the picture here, Yahusha is Yahuwah is my deliverance. The Shah, look down the bottom there, the Shah is the root Yasha. Its meaning in Hebrew is deliverance, salvation, help, rescue. Deliverance is the best word. Salvation sounds really Christian. Are you saved? Come and get saved. Have you been saved, born again and saved? And all this yes, they're going with. It's better to use the word deliverance. You've been delivered from something, taken from one thing into another. Delivered from what? Evil, from the clutches of evil, the evil that was in you. You are legally washed clean by the blood of the Lamb. That's what I want to go into today, because Christopher wrote an amazing article, and I'd like to just make a side point in amidst our talking about Abraham, if you don't mind, because let's keep going further down. This one here. See the Lion of the tribe of Yehudah. He is able to open the scroll. I want to bring your attention to Yahusha, and I'm trying to do that anyway in every video, but in hindsight, we can look and see that Yahusha did everything. And so let's take a little bit of a break from Abraham in this short video today, because I want to go through this article that Christopher's written, because it puts perspective on the whole journey. And we don't have to wait for however many years it takes me to finish the scriptures to get to the end, because we know what the end is. And Christopher's reminded us here what the end is and what's happening. And I'll go into it for you here. So let's go. The Behavior Revolution Scriptures. So let this wash over you, brothers and sisters. We've been through Noach. We've been through, well, we started in Adam and 𝗂𝗜𝗏, then we went to Noach and the covenant made there. Then we've been to Abram and he had a covenant. And the same covenant has been renewed from person to person. And now Abraham, he's had a name change from Abram to Abraham. And the renewed covenant with Abraham involved the shedding of human blood. Remember, in order for a covenant to be renewed, mankind's blood had to be shed. To get involved. This isn't just my covenant, guys. You get involved. You shed some of your blood. So that's where the instruction, the sign of circumcision came in. So that any seed born from Abraham's body after that point would pass through the circumcision into the womb of a sealed woman. So let's go on. The Behavior Revolution Scriptures. And Christopher wrote this a few days ago. As we watch the wonderful videos Mark is making of his version of Torah today, he points out the fact that the only solution for deliverance from sin was a blood covenant sacrifice. Right from the murder of Abel to the sacrifice of Yahusha, they were all blood sacrifice covenants. And Yahusha's was the last covenant made, eternal, 2,000 years ago. No more blood covenants. We're not to be sacrificing any more blood. Yahusha made the final sacrifice, offering up his spotless, he was the spotless lamb. And so there's no more animal sacrifices after that point. So if you don't need any more animal sacrifices, you don't need any more altars to put them on. And if you don't have any more altars, you don't need any more temples to put them in. And if you don't have any more temples, you don't need any more priesthood. And if you don't have any more priesthood, you don't need any more tithes. Because we're all under the Melchizedek. We talked about him last episode. The Melchizedek priesthood. A much higher priesthood. Because it's Yahusha's priesthood. He was Melchizedek. Melchizedek was Yahusha. So we're not into the Levitical priesthood anymore, the priesthood in the wilderness, and all the tabernacles and temples that were all through the scriptures. We're not coming under that anymore. That's been fulfilled. And fulfilled does not mean abolished. Fulfilled means made alive, and we're going to talk about this as we go on. So Torah tells us that the death of Yahusha was the last sacrifice for the remission of sin. No more animal sacrifices. And that his blood only would cleanse any and all sin from us. Only through the name of Yahusha Mashiach would we be cleansed. Only through the name of Yahusha Mashiach would we be cleansed. Yahusha entered 𝗪𝗡, that's the other dimension, the higher dimension. 𝗪𝗡 just means skies, but we know it as the eternal, the other higher dimension. Yahusha entered as a lamb slain, and his blood was sprinkled to cleanse 𝗪𝗡. So not only did the earth need cleansing by Yahusha's blood and mankind, the other dimension needed cleansing too, because remember there's lawlessness going on in there too. ℚ𝗏 was booted out, so it's not all clean up there either. So in there either. So let's look at Revelation 5, verse 6. And I looked and saw in the midst of the throne and of the 4 living creatures and in the midst of the elders a lamb standing, as having been slain, having 7 horns and 7 eyes, which are the 7 winds of Yahuwah, sent out into all the earth. So this is the BYNV version here. I looked and saw in the midst of the throne and of the 4 living creatures and in the midst of the elders standing, having a lamb, having been slain, having 7 horns, 7 eyes, which are the 7 winds of Yahuwah, sent out into all the earth. This text tells us that the lamb is Yahusha. And the lamb standing in the center of the throne takes the place of Yahuwah. The lamb standing in the center of the throne takes the place of Yahuwah. Therefore, we know that Yahuwah is actually Yahusha, and that there is no deliverance since Yahusha left this earth through any other name than Yahusha Mashiach. We see this through the imagery of the Apostle John's descriptive writings. So all through the Revelation we see that. Yahuchanan, or John, was saying all this stuff. We know that Yahuwah is actually Yahusha and that there is no deliverance through any other name than Yahusha Mashiach. Every person that has ever lived and died is waiting asleep for one of the 2 resurrections. There's a first resurrection and a second resurrection. 2 resurrections. Those on earth now are in the valley of decision to accept Yahusha's gift of deliverance or not. Those on the earth now are in the valley of decision. You're in the wilderness, being reasoned with, talked to, trained. You're in the valley of decision. Whether to accept Yahusha's gift of deliverance or not. The first resurrection is the bride, her wedding feast, and 1,000 years of peace on earth. That's what the first resurrection is. The bride. The bridal feast, the wedding feast, 1,000 years of peace on earth. The second resurrection is the great white throne of judgment, of destruction, where everyone will be judged according to their behaviour on earth. So you might make it to the second resurrection, but you missed the first one, you missed the wedding. What's the point of being a bride if you don't get to go to the wedding? So it's very important to know that you're the bride. A lot of people say they're the bride. Christianity says they're the bride. Messianics say they're the bride. Nazarene say they're the bride. Everybody says they're the bride. It's very important. The bride is very, very small. Look at Noah's ark. The whole earth was destroyed and 1 man and his family. And as the days of Noah, so it will be today. That's how the world is. That's why Christopher's posting all this horrid, abominable stuff that mankind is doing, to remind us that the end is coming. Because we can get very, cruisy, can't we? Lackadaisy. Oh yeah, no problem, mate. Yahusha's not coming back for a long time. My life's not that bad. The earth's not that bad. But look what's really going down. All these things Christopher's been posting. Have a look. Go and friend him and have a look. It's hideous things that the mankind is doing. That's why we know the time is very short. Yahusha could come back any time because it's filthy wickedness. Just like Sodom and Gomorrah. That's what our next video is going to be about. So let's go on. Yahusha has everything in order. Perfect order. He is on time. Everything is as he said it would be in these days. He's on time. Everything is as he said it would be in these last days. If you have made your choice, have been immersed into Yahusha Mashiach, and filled with his spirit, and have the sign of the Shabbat, you are on track. You're on track. That's the sign of the everlasting covenant now. The Shabbat. We rest on the Shabbat. We come out of the water. Yahusha puts his name on our foreheads. We're sealed. And the sign of our everlasting covenant is the Shabbat. That's our worship. That's our behavior. Doing the Shabbat. And that's how we know that we are living under that covenant. We don't have to be circumcised anymore. And ever since Yahusha and his blood, he didn't abolish, he didn't do away with any covenants, but he fulfilled the covenants. He made alive the covenants, filled them up to overflowing. So if you read it in context and have the true understanding, you know now, it says in scripture, circumcision now is of our heart. He circumcises our hearts with a love of his everlasting instructions, his Torah. So that we no longer have hearts made of stone, he makes our hearts flesh. So that we want to obey his instructions. So, blessings and love to all who have made the decision. Have you made that decision, brothers and sisters? Because you're in the valley of decision and you haven't got very long. Remember when all the animals went in the ark and Noah and his family were in the ark, the door was shut. And that's it. Noah didn't shut the door. Despite what movies we've seen, Noah did not shut the door. Yahusha shut the door. Noah couldn't open it. Yahusha shut the door. And just as today, we're in the valley of decision. We've been told. We're nearly at the end of the 6th day, brothers and sisters. It's the clock's about to strike midnight on the 6th day. So once the fire comes, once you see the sun go dark and the moon glow red, the fire is going to destroy this earth. Do you want to have to die? Give up your life for your deliverance? To wake up in 1,000 years at the great white throne judgment? Or would you rather see the fire coming and be transformed? Whether we're lifted up into the sky above the flames, or whether the flames travel through us as we're transformed. It makes sense, doesn't it? Because any flesh on this earth will be burned. That's why we're going to take on bodies like Yahusha. Yahusha is alive. That's what we were talking about the other night. Christopher and I, he rang up and Yahusha was giving him all this amazing stuff. Yahusha is alive. He's not just a spirit. People are out there saying, oh, Yahusha's a spirit, he was resurrected and now he's a spirit. No, he's still got his 33-year-old body. And he's black. He's a black man. Imagine looking into his eyes. Imagine being able to touch his hands and put your fingers through the holes that were in his hands. Imagine it. He's alive, brothers and sisters. And he's not some old guy sitting up in the sky somewhere. He's right here. He lives in our hearts. He's put a down payment of his ruach in our hearts. His spirit, his essence, his personality, his behavior, in our hearts. The power to overcome, we have to exercise that power. We are legally washed clean by the blood of the Lamb, but we're still riddled with filthy behaviors and bad habits. That we have to take that down payment and exercise it like a muscle. Get stronger and stronger, putting on our armor. That's our path of overcoming, brothers and sisters. But we have to keep our eyes on Yahusha. He has to stay in the forefront of our minds all day, every day. That's what worship is, behaving. That's why we're in a behaviour revolution, because those in the behaviour revolution don't want to go back. We don't want to go back to what the ℕ and Messianics, all those people are saying. We want to keep going forward. We're not replacing, we're just going further. Keep coming out, keep going forward, overcoming in your behaviour. It's not what they all say. It's much more than that. You can have a real enter in, he says. Come boldly into the throne room. We can have a bit of a peekaboo into the other dimension. Come boldly into my throne room. He's in our hearts. And he's alive. He's 33 years old and he's a young black man. Yahusha, our Mashiach, our deliverance. Did you realise it like this? So he fills up not every covenant, he fills up the covenant. The reason he made covenants with different people in the early scriptures is to start washing their minds, getting them used to the idea of animal sacrifices, of the importance of bloodshed, the importance of, it was nothing more important than losing your life, really, is there? Nothing more dire than, oh, I better do this, otherwise I'm dead. That's pretty, he put that in place so people would realise the bloodshed. Blood was needed if you wanted to have a relationship with me. That's how important it was to him, what mankind had done in the garden. So the whole purpose of this is to get back to the Garden of Eden, as I've been saying. And so the covenant made with Adam, with Noah, with Abraham, it's the same covenant that Yahusha fulfilled, made alive. It's the same everlasting blood covenant of deliverance. It was all about deliverance. And that's why I've used Yahusha right from the beginning in Genesis, because Yahusha was the one who, the minute Adam and Ḥawwa fell and did their evil lawlessness and were kicked out of the garden, he put on his garment of deliverance. He put on his mantle and went to work. Got straight into deliverance mode. Because that's what Yahusha's all about, deliverance. Yahuwah is our deliverance. And his name is Yahusha. Yahuwah is our deliverance. Yahuwah just means I am, I will be. He's all existing, all everlasting and eternal and self-existing. Omnipresent, omnipotent and omnipresent, But Yahusha is our deliverance. Do you face this, brothers and sisters? This article was a blowout. It was amazing to realise that Yahusha is flesh and blood still today. He took on flesh, became our deliverance, and offered himself up on that altar as the last sacrifice. Not just to cover lawlessness, not just to cover wickedness and evil and sin, but to completely annihilate it and cleanse it. Does that mean there's none in there? No, not at all. It's still here. But legally, it's about ownership. It's about taking back ownership of his covenant marriage house. ℚ had taken it, because whoever you obey, you belong to. Whoever you obey, you are a slave to. So, and it's all about behaviour and lifestyle and habits, isn't it? That's why Yahusha's all about behaviour. So he died to take back his bride from the clutches of the enemy. But we have to choose him. And when we choose him and get immersed in water, we are legally washed clean. Legally, he sees us as clean. But of course, in order for there to be a consummation of the marriage, because when we come out of the water, we're not born again. We're begotten from above. We're in that betrothal. We're going to look at that when we go into the Exodus videos. There's a time of betrothal before the marriage is consummated. And the betrothal can take years. Because often parents betrothed their children while they were young. And like an arranged marriage. So anybody who came along and tampered with a girl that was betrothed, big no-no. So we're in the time of betrothal now, brothers and sisters. We come out of the water and we're begotten from above. We've got a down payment in our hearts, and we're looking for the wedding. We're preparing ourselves for the wedding, preparing our behaviour, preparing our garments of deliverance, making sure they're clean, getting rid of the spots and blemishes. We're being heated by fire, he says that. And it starts at the assembly first. He's heating up his assembly. Judgment starts first in the assembly, heating them up like gold so that he can scrape off the impurities, scrape off the dross. So Yahusha was the first fruit. There's no one like him. There's no other creation on the earth. There's no other man, there's no other being that's ever created like Yahusha. There's plenty of spirits, good and evil, and there's plenty of humans, but he's both. He's a human who just appears. He walked through the walls in the upper, remember? He appeared to his emissaries after he died. He just appeared, he walked through the walls. They thought it was a ghost because he's a spirit. But then he says, hug me, touch me, put your hands through the holes. And they could. How does that work? How can a human body vibrate and pulse at the frequency in order to walk? His matter can walk through walls. He's a new creature. He's the first fruits of many to come. And that's what we're going to be when we get changed in the twinkling of an eye, right before the fire comes. We're going to be changed and have bodies like him. That's a phenomenal experience, brothers and sisters. Just the mind boggles. To be able to float, to be able to fly, to be able to walk through walls, but still be our bodies. Will we age? Not will we age, what age will we be? Will we be 33 like him? What if children die? What age will they be resurrected? What all these questions we have. What are we going to look like? So, can you see how these understandings just make these are the things to be putting our mind on, brothers and sisters. It's amazing. So I want to leave you with, that's the amazing picture up there. There's one more Christopher posted this morning, which I thought was really interesting, because we were just talking about the days of Noach. Why can't that come down? There we go. There. You can see there. Psychiatrist admits that mental illness is caused by demonic possession. Duh. We've only been saying it for years. They won't listen, will they? Prescribing them pills and all sorts of rubbish medication. Mental illness is caused by demonic possession. It's true. And Christopher's written here, Shaitan has an army. 1/3 of the angels chose to go against the Torah, which is the instructions of Yahuwah to live in his universe. They have been here since before the creation of men. They are called evil or unclean spirits and demons. Because man has rejected the Torah instruction of Yahuwah, prophecy has revealed to us that the lies, madness of Satan has infected the whole human race to the point where it has to be destroyed again, as in the time of Noah. So it's going to happen again. He promised, and we see it out there in the clouds, the rainbow, he would never flood the world again. That was his covenant made with Noah. But the world is soon to be burned. Scientists are saying it, and we know it's going to happen soon. The fire is coming, brothers and sisters, because Satan has infected the whole human race, just like he did prior to Noah. It took him 2,000 years to do that, around 2,000 years before that flood. And then Yahusha came about 2,000 odd years after. And now it's another 2,000 years. We're nearly at the end of the 6th day. 2 + 2 + 2 is 6. 6,000 years. So the last 2,000 years since Yahusha, it's been happening all again. Those who reject Yahusha as Messiah will never receive deliverance from satanic madness and will be burnt up in the fires of judgment. So quite stark contrast to the last article Chris wrote, isn't it? This is what's happening to the world, and the last article was about what's happening to the bride. We're all in the valley of decision. And if we go back, if we go, oh, that's too much, Yahusha, no, I can't handle this anymore, I'm going back to my old life, or I'm going to do what I want to do. I still believe in you, but I want to do what I want to do. What's waiting for us? It's right there. Satanic madness. Because unless Yahusha is constantly filling you and you're exercising that ruach, that down payment of the ruach, what's going to come and fill your heart, your vessel, your carcass? What's going to fill you? Satanic madness. And then you come into all the mental disorders. And we look around us, they might even be in our own homes. So brothers and sisters, we're in the valley of decision. In our next, not for a while, but in our Exodus videos, we're going to go into the wilderness and see what the Israelites did in the wilderness. Well, we are in the wilderness today because the bride, the remnant has been whisked out into the wilderness. So everything that happened to them in the wilderness is happening to us in the wilderness. We are in the valley of decision. But we have to make up our mind who we're going to serve, who we're going to obey. Because remember, as I said, who you obey is who you serve is, and who you worship is who owns you. Who owns you? Yahusha or Satan? Does Ⅎ𝗏𝗏 own you? So I'm going to leave it there, brothers and sisters. I wanted to include this video because it's very important. Well, I included it because Christopher wrote it, and it blew me away just to realize the reality of Yahusha in us. He is alive. He's got a down payment of his ruach, his spirit in us, but he himself is in physical form as well. His spirit, and he's not just spirit, he's physical. He has a physical body. We'll be able to touch him, hug him, embrace him, look into his eyes. Do you see him like that? Do you behave in your day as though he's watching all the time, taking record of your behaviour? The record was made of Abraham, of Noah, of all these other, but what if someone was making record, because they are, of your life? How would that story go? Things to think about, brothers and sisters. Stay strong. We're going to continue with Abraham in our next video, and go into Sodom and Gomorrah and what happens there with Lot and his daughters. Love you guys. Bye bye.